We are live now. Welcome to the Forces of Renewal Southeast Asia Dialogue Live. I'm Zani, the host and organizer, and my sincere apologies for being 15 minutes late. I've had technical issues and was scrambling to get this live stream up. Um, we've got a really exciting 1 hour ahead in Kuala Lumpur. Dato Sri Saifuddin, a former Malaysian foreign minister and member of the parliament currently, and he has been a tireless and supportive voice for the Burmese people wherever they are, whether they are Rohingyas or Kachins or Karens or Burmese activists on the ground. They're pushing for democratic change in Burma. In Thailand, we have Padoso Dadomu, the General Secretary of the Karen National Union, founded in 1948, and one of the world's oldest revolutionary organizations, with its military wing called Karen National Liberation Army. Also inside Myanmar, we've got a representative of Chin National Front, the Salain Vam Bawit Mang. He's with the CNF technical support team and specializes in many of the issues that we will touch on. In Pennsylvania, getting up very early to join this the dialogue is Guam Sung Nasang. He's the president of Kachin Alliance and also a very successful businessman supporting his people's liberation struggle back in Kachin state and across Myanmar. He was part of a group that helped establish the National Unity Government. Also, we have in the United States, the former Karani refugee and the US educated Nene Plor. He is with the Karen National Progressive Party based in eastern Myanmar across from the Boundary River Selwyn. So welcome and thank you to all the brothers that have decided to speak out on this very important issue. We are aware that we do not have any woman speaker, and that's my own responsibility, and I apologize that we will try harder next time. Let me just say a word about why some of us believe that it's time for ASEAN and international organizations, as well as different governments supporting Myanmar democratic movement, to start thinking about why airstrikes by a national air force under the direct command of the coup leader, General Mae Aung Hlaing, attacking from the air civilian targets deliberately over the last 2 years as a matter of the military strategy should be considered an act of domestic terrorism. In the write-up, we talked about the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, of the United States and how it defines domestic terrorism. Burmese military may not be sponsoring cross-border terrorism the same way some of the state actors in the Middle East and other places might be doing. However, a national air force bombing civilians across Burma, Kachin State, Shan State, Karenni State, Karen State, Chin State, as well as the Burmese heartlands, including children in schools and refugee camps and IDP camps. And so without further ado, please allow me to invite Bado Tadomu to share his firsthand observation on the ground in Karen State about these airstrikes, because like the Myanmar Air Force started bombing Korean civilians as early as 2 months after the coup in 2021. So 2 consecutive years, a national air force is targeting civilian populations as soft targets and launching missiles and bombs against civilians. Dotadomu, you are muted.
Thank you, Dr. Sunny. Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing us together and explains about our situation, and very much appreciate and thank you to Professor Dr. Saifuddin and also our colleagues as well. As Dr. Sunny mentioned before, uh, the 2 years, above 2 years time, that's exactly what I would say, 751 days up to now. So what I'm going to present all the information, especially on the airstrike, is based on that within that time frame. Let's say, why it was happen and why it is keep continuing, and of course will become, forward by them, because they are the one, the national army, of course, but they turn to be as not to be as a national army anymore, as all these terrorist, behavior, and with the terrorist mindset and philosophy of the army, which is totally against, the to the polite world, and also because of that army mindset and behavior, that's we clearly everyone can see that it's a kind of terrorism and terrorist act by the state. So I would like to mention a little bit about the statistics that since the coup up to now. Let's say we have 7 districts, start from 100 miles down south of the Naypyidaw to the southeast of Burma up to the Tawai, and we have 7 districts areas, and all the airstrikes within these periods and 751 days, there were already 307 airstrikes. So what I would like to say that this is only the airstrike against the people. This is the airstrike against the civilian and villages and the church and schools and clinics and something like that. We didn't account the airstrike, direct attack to our soldier, our military camp, and our structure, only for the civilian. So there are 307 airstrikes, and houses were destroyed, 258, and the structure, like a building and things like that, 35, and 6 hospitals and clinics, and 12 schools, and 5 Buddhist monasteries, and 8 Christian churches in different denominations, plus 57 civilians died by the airstrike and 32 people wounded. So that is what I would like to say, that why this what happened, and I would like to show some picture about what we are, what was happening in our situation. So among that 307 airstrikes, I would like to mention, to take one case. It's just recently happened in Budra district, one of the school. Everyone can see the school is about 200 people, and we call this as a new generation school. So that is what in our local, name, that new generation school, and about 200 people, and post 10 mean intergraduate level of the students. So it was just only 15 February, it was bombed up. It was destroyed by that, and remaining only that one. And after that, 3 fighter jets dropping 500 bombs onto that school, then everything's collapsed. This is what we can see after that. So now all these students, before, the life of them is very much that kind of school building were destroyed, and now they have to be under this kind of circumstances. So there is a temporary shelter and in the forest, but still continue and schooling in that area. And also the life of all the dormitory and all the machines were destroyed. So that's why what they have to be under this kind of circumstances. All the bamboo thatcher and very basic food, that's what they have to, that is only for the survival for that. That is a huge things happen, not only to that school, but also I would like to show that there is a kind of another churches. And also, this is about pure civilian and the underage of the kids, and plus in that case, one pastor and one deacon of the church elder, and also these kids were passed away on the spot. So that is what we are facing, and everyone can see this is a huge intentional attack. And also, as a state army, and they are against their own civilian, which is terrorism, which is state terrorism. So that is what we are facing. So you can imagine one aircraft can carry 1,000 pounds of bomb or 2 of the 500-pound bomb. So we can imagine all about as to be able to easy to calculate. I just counted between this year 2023 January and February time. So there's are all about 64 times of airstrike. So I counted, and it was caused with within this kind of bomb and what they use, equivalent to 3 10-wheeler truck dumper weight of the bomb that used. So that's it, a huge thing that none of the an organization can do that. But just I would like to mention that is a state terror or state terrorism. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If you just listen to what the current National Union General Secretary Beto Tatomu had to share, they were the first to suffer this, like a 2 years of consecutive, targeted bombing of civilians. This is not indiscriminate bombing and attack. It is deliberate and intentional. Striking of civilian populations. Many of them are refugees and war IDPs. May I now ask Salim Ben Bawi Mang, if that's the order of speaking, we're going. He will be talking about his own personal experience as well as his research findings about the Chin communities, being subjected to the airstrikes almost daily. One town, in the Chin state called Tantalan has been flattened, burned to the ground, in addition to airstrikes. Salai, unmute yourself first.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. And thank you very much. And then it is a great pleasure, and thank you for having me in this important event. It's not directly related to this topic, but I would like to take seriously and highlight this about the Chin people situations. Since the coup, like more than 420 people, only Chin people have been killed, and then among them 280 are like only civilians. That is very high number since the coup that brutally killed and take actions by the military. So as we are aware of current the military situations, since the military lose its ground control, so the military start attacking and using airstrike against its own civilians, and first I would like to highlight since 2022 July, as I mentioned, the military lose control on the ground, and then they are unable to conduct or operate even convoy or column operations in the ground. So and then even if they wanted to supply food or like ammunition for their comrades, they have to use the helicopter. So, and then if we say in 2023, since they are trying to regain their control areas and hold elections in Chin State, so they carried out lots of airstrike, and the aerial attacks have become more frequent in like day to day. So they carried out a lot of airstrike and targeting civilian infrastructure, including homes, medical centers, churches, and schools. For example, in 2022, in Mindat at Church Village, they dropped bomb at school and churches and killed 2 civilians, and others were a lot of injuries. In fact, church and school, that kind of place should not be bombed, and then it's very forbidden, but they just don't care. And then even before they carried out that attack, there were and they know there was the school and churches, but they bomb it. So I would like to highlight what kind of the military use airstrike against Chin peoples, and as my records, they have used jet fighters such as Su-30, A-5 bomber, Yak-130, and other choppers such as like a Mi-35. So if according to my record, since the coup, more 10 people have been killed direct consequence from the strike. More than civilians have been, and then we can see a lot of destruction, including churches, schools, and other civilian infrastructure. So now, if as you may aware, we have 9 townships in Chin State. So in airstrike has been more conducted in Hakha and Tan. However, in 2021, 2022, we have 2 times airstrike in Tidim Township, and then 30 times since the coup, 30 times in Mindat Township, and then more times in Falam. And others, Hakha and Tantlang Township have been more than 80 times airstrike. since the coup. So in total, we can say that more than 120 airstrike carried out since the coup in Chin State. So, and as you know, like I would like to highlight how the military target and then choose their target. So on 10 and 11 January this year, military attacked our headquarters, Camp Victoria, and then kill 5 our comrades. Here's the things that I would like to highlight is, according to the leaked out document in November 2022, they knew there was a civil hospital, and then that civil hospital provides medical service nearby the village, and then some civilians are come from India, Mizoram, and then they the place where they get a medical service, but they know, and then they intentionally bomb that place. So now after the attack, it hampers not only the delivery of our medical care, but also it burdens our the healthcare system as well. So, and one thing that I would like to highlight is like since February 1st until today, like we can say it's we can say it's only even 20 days, but the military carried out airstrike against us is like more than 50 times even within 20 days. And then one thing that is like within 12 hours, like more than 30 times airstrike carried out by the junta. We don't know why, but and then that is how the military target against its own civilians in Chin State. And then there's a lot of impact from airstrike against on civilians. From my experience, I went to some place that landed a bomb village, and then I asked them. They say that they are afraid to go out, and then they can even go to farm, and they can walk. This time it is a time to prepare for like a shifting cultivation. They have to cut off the tree and other, but the villagers are now afraid to go out and then do their surviving. And then one of the parents told me that the bomb vibrations, or we can what we say reverberations, it impacts a lot to them, especially the children, because they say that from that impact we are like now traumatized, or we are having psychological or emotional trauma. So that is what currently we have experienced. And then thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bemba Weemang. I should point out that Chin State is on the border of Mizoram, the Indian the northeast province, and on the Mizoram side, Zomi people live there, and their anthropological kin with the Chin on this side of the border. Also, Chin State is one of the sparsely populated regions of Burma or Myanmar. So although the number of casualties slightly less than 500, and half of those casualties are civilians. And so there are multiple impact and consequences. You know, the airstrikes that not only kill the people that were hit by shrapnels and hit directly by missile attacks from the air, but it also destroys the Chin people's the ability to grow paddy and to cultivate any the food systems. And so there are multiple implications, as Ban Wee Mong said. The elderly, the children, whoever, have been deeply terrorized and traumatized. So these are impacts that will outlast the current resistance movement. And now, can I invite either Neneplo or Guanson, either one of you, to share your thoughts on the airstrikes that your own communities, ethnic communities, have been subjected to?
Neneplo, please. Yeah, Mr. Nani.
Oh, me first. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Greetings, my fellow panelists and all the viewers who are watching now. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, the airstrikes in Burma right now is probably the deadliest force against civilian, because we have seen that the Burmese military regime has been using airstrikes increasingly, and these airstrikes inflict a lot of physical damage and also a lot of psychological damage on the people. In Karenni State and the tiny areas surrounding Karenni State where the Karenni people are, in just the past year, we documented at least 15 airstrikes targeted against civilians or attacks on civilian in indiscriminate way. So the airstrikes that are carried out, at times will be, like I mentioned, targeted, and at times it will be indiscriminate. Indiscriminate in the sense that there might be civilians in the areas, but the Burmese military regime will go ahead and attack it anyway. And a lot of these attacks take place at night, either at dusk or at midnight, and a lot of these attacks, were also by unguided missile or unguided rockets or unguided bombs. And we have also seen the Burmese military regime use cluster bombs. It's a device that has been banned internationally. And these cluster bombs were used in Karenni State, Chin State, and Karen State. It has been documented. And these cluster bombs are also, Myanmar made, so in a way made in Myanmar, and has a lot of indiscriminate consequences for the people that are being targeted. And the targets are civilian objects like homes, schools, clinics, and other health facilities, and religious buildings. And this is a signature of the Burmese military, not just in Karenni State, but anywhere else in Burma where they attack civilians. And at least one occasion, the Burmese military used drone to attack civilian in Karenni State. This was a deliberate attack because the drone hovered over a village and dropped a bomb on a civilian home. Fortunately, no civilian was killed, but the home was damaged. So this is what we are seeing in Karenni State. And back in 2022, in January, there was this IDP camp that was attacked. This IDP camp was called Rikibu, and it was obvious that it was an IDP camp, and it should have been obvious to the Burmese military too, because before the attack, they actually conducted a few surveillance flights over the IDP camp. And the IDP camp was located outside a village, and all the structures and everything, just looked like an IDP camp. But in the middle of the night, at around 1 a.m., the Burmese military jet dropped several bombs believed to be around 250 pounds to 500 pounds to the camp, killing 3 civilians, 2 sisters, one age 15 and another age 12, and a man in his 50s. So there was deliberate, knowing that it was an IDP camp. These IDPs actually just fled a massacre on the Christmas Eve, a few weeks before. The massacre took place in Mosul, is in Pruso Township. So they fled the massacre and they took refuge at the Rikibu IDP camp, but unfortunately it was not safe for them because of the airstrikes. And just recently, in February, the first week of February, the Burmese military regime also launched a series of attacks on refugee IDP camps and areas they house IDPs in eastern Loikaw Township. This is when they destroy school buildings, clinics, and also food storages for the internally displaced people in the area. So now, with the leaked Burmese military intelligence document that we have seen, airstrikes are actually authorized and encouraged to be used more because the Burmese military regime is losing forces on the ground. So we expect that more terrorist acts by the Burmese military against the civilians using air force is going to increase in our not just in Karen State, but in areas where there's strong resistance across Burma. That's why we believe that international community and our neighbors should also take action in preventing the Burmese military from committing these terrorist acts against civilians. Thank you.
Thank you. You've just heard from the spokesperson, Nene Ploh of the Korean National Progressive Party. Speaking from USA, he traveled back and forth between his own native place in Krenny province and US. And now, can I invite Gwansan Nasang of the Kachin Alliance? He's the president and also one of the we can call it like founding groups of the National Unity Government.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, carry on.
Extremely grateful and privileged to be here, especially with His Excellency Saifuddin, who has been a prodigious voice for the people who are beleaguered in Burma. And we're extremely thankful for all the work that you have done. And also to my distinguished panelists, it is my honor to be here. From the outset, I want to acknowledge, address also the gender equality, which is still remain a challenge in our country. And as an organization, we strive for better composition of a woman in our organizations. And I'm sure that we could work on this simultaneously as we try to liberate our country again. But with the airstrike in our Kachin region, we've been recorded about 50 within the year of 2022, but we've seen an uptick in the year 2023. For the first month and a half alone, we've seen over 15 airstrikes. That would be every other day there's an airstrike in Kachin at this time. Kachin is not new to conflict. Since 2011, we've had renewed civil war in our region, and we've seen the military use of airstrikes as is part of its arsenal from his and the frequency of using military airstrike has been more prominent in after the coup. But the arsenal that they use are similar to, as our fellow panelists have discussed earlier. But one of the most highlighted event in Kachin region has been Anang Pa on October 23rd, where it killed over 70, we estimate around 80 civilians that have been massacred. This is a premeditated murder because the military well knew that there was going to be a concert event in celebration of a KIO party. And it was more of a public event. We have villagers that came by, many other civilians that were there. This is a civilian event where they had sports tournament in the throughout the day, and it was more of a award ceremony in the afternoon. And it struck, the bomb dropped right at the center stage of an event, where it killed all pretty much all the musicians and everyone in attendance. And even in past few weeks, we were able to pick up a few more corpses that were tossed hundreds of yards away from the explosion. And that they were 3 explosions that occurred in a at night, late in the evening. So we deem it to be more precise, and it has been very precise in its airstrike. And these are the capability which we should be mindful, and international community should be cognizant of. The propensity and the frequency that they used of these arsenals are staggering. And other regions will only attest to the fact that this military is nothing short of a terrorist organization, where it's willing to use anything it's in its toolkit or in its arsenal to wage upon innocent civilian. We know from Rohingya crisis, where the military used gunship as a fleeing unarmed civilian. The military that is organization that is willing to use military helicopter gunship and gunning down fleeing civilian will use anything in its arsenal to maintain its power. So it's incumbent upon the community to accept or to also acknowledge this, even as an entity that is reputable to represent, or to even a negotiating party or party to a community of civilized organizations. So it is incumbent upon ASEAN as well to even be sitting on the same table as with the terrorist organizations that is massacring its own people just to maintain its power. What we witnessed in the late 20th century with the killing field event in Cambodia, we've manifesting ourselves and also seeing ourselves that we have this next killing field unfolding in our midst. And we have the capacity to help. We have the capacity to stop this, to halt this. I think the international community should move beyond just rhetoric and statements and put in action to that. Everything that we have done in an international peace organization claim to prevent is happening, and it's unfolding in our midst. So we ask the international community to stop fueling this war, fueling these airstrikes against unarmed civilians. We don't want airstrike to be done in Rangoon or Mandalay, which they could. And that is what we are trying to prevent. And I hope from this panel discussion as well, that we'll urge some key policymakers to halt assisting. If you can't help arm us, please help stop arming the military or fueling the military of these jet fuel that is killing unarmed civilian. Thank you.
Thank you, Guamsan. We've got about 20 minutes, and I'd like to invite Dato Saifuddin because, one of the meetings I had the privilege of having with Dato, I asked him, like, why are you concerned about Burma? Why, he was still in office as the key cabinet member of the previous the Malaysian government. He said, as an ASEAN, we failed in Cambodia's genocide, and he said he did not want to see the same organizations he was one of the leaders of to repeat the same mistake that it did back in the 70s, when 1/3 of the population was wiped out by Kamarus, led by Popo. So Dato, what are your thoughts on the ASEAN's policies, its effectiveness, as well as our neighbors like China, India, immediate neighbors, Thailand, whose airspace or airspaces have been routinely violated by the Myanmar military, particularly Air Force?
Well, a very good day to Zani and my beloved brothers. Thank you so much for having me in this discussion. I think this is yet another very important discussion on what is really happening in Myanmar. I have read before, but now I'm listening to actual presentation from my brothers on what is happening. We mentioned earlier the word terrorism or terrorists. Well, from what we know, and as I said, I'm not hearing this for the first time. The airstrikes, the helicopter gunship bombing, and what have you. In fact, even what happened on the ground is actually befitting the definition of terrorism, the unlawful use of violence or threat of violence and intimidation especially against civilians. They have all the objective. The objective is political. It is intimidation. It is threat. It is perpetration. I mean, we can argue, and we know that it fits into the definition. But of course, we cannot rely only on the FBI definition, because this is more like a state-sponsored terrorism. It's not a non-state what they call terrorist action. So we know what is happening. Of course, when we bring up the idea about terrorism here, we will also hear from some people the accusation that the junta has been throwing against some of us, which is really not fair. You cannot compare people. These are revolutionary forces. They're not terrorists. And then they are not targeting civilians, and they have been the revolution have been there for 50 some to 70 years. So you cannot compare. This is really a one-sided affair coming from the government, and especially from the junta, and especially when it involves airstrikes, where the revolutionaries and definitely civilian has got nothing to defend themselves. And especially when you look at the attacks on buildings, hospitals, temples, churches, and schools and concert and things like that. Besides the death, I think we will suffer one whole generation of lost children in Myanmar. I mean, I have seen the videos of children running away when the bombs were targeting the schools. I mean, the trauma that they have to undergo is really, you can't describe it with words. I remember, yes, I talked about the genocide in Cambodia. Our brother mentioned the killing field. You see, what we need to do is really have to tell ASEAN that things are worse than what they know. I have always been repeating that ASEAN foreign ministers are not getting first-hand information about what is actually happening. I've been asking the secretariat in Jakarta that you must engage the people on the ground. They will tell you exactly what is happening. Some are reported by the media, some are not. I think what we can do now, at least for this discussion, Zani, if we can compile it, I mean, I'm no longer a foreign minister, which in a way I'm more free to write to my colleagues, the foreign ministers. I will start with Malaysia and Ibu Retno and the rest. I think we should inform them, look, this is now, things are worse than what we can imagine. Things are really worse than what we know from whatever information that we have been gathering. They must we must get their attention that this is already, a state-sponsored terrorism committed by the junta. We can debate about it later, but I think we should inform them. Look, this is happening right now. It's already for 2 years, and hopefully this will then get more attention, especially from ASEAN and ASEAN and international community, so that the sanction. I read, I think the US or the EU is enhancing their sanction, but I think we really need more sanction, targeted sanction, of course, to the military, on assets, on equipments, and the fuel that they use to fly the planes and the helicopters. So we really have to come up with that kind of report. I leave it to you to compile it. I can be a good postman. I can, of course, well, you see, the new Prime Minister Anwar made a good statement in Bangkok recently about carving out Myanmar. But I have yet to see him to find out what exactly does he mean, because then the foreign minister made another statement clarifying, which dilute the statement. And I asked him, why are you diluting your boss statement? But never mind. The only thing is that statement works in terms of ASEAN should go on doing whatever they want to do. Our worry is not about ASEAN doing whatever they want to do with the other 9 member states. What we want is, what are we doing with Myanmar? I think that is the real focus that we need to put a lot of attention on. So I will stop at that first, Zani. If I can just summarize by saying, if we can compile this, I can do at least on my end to further relay the message to the foreign ministers and the ASEAN Secretariat.
Yeah, thank you, Dato. I think like your suggestion of collating or compiling all these on the ground reports coming from 4 brothers who have like first-hand experience of airstrikes and their impact on communities. And also, I should mention that there are also Burmese Buddhist communities that are up in arms, and they have also been the stricken from the air, like in Sagaing and Magway, entire villages were burned down. The same way that the Burmese military went about their business of like destroying Rohingya communities. And so this now they have sprung exactly the same method of destruction, collective punishment, if you will, over essentially every community, because this is a nationwide armed resistance, and also I think the idea that what Gonsan mentioned, that this is a national military has turned into a terrorist organization. It might be a bit of a hard sell, to to say that the entire military is terroristic and therefore we must shun them because a lot of states may not be prepared. But I think it might be a bit more feasible if we say that, Myanmar military consistently over the last 2 years has targeted civilians, right, for bombing, like you say, like in Chin State. I mean, on average, on a weekly basis, 120 airstrikes over a period of, say, like 120 weeks. That's like weekly airstrikes, right, in a sparsely populated area, with varying intensity. So I think like the idea of like asking the ASEAN to consider the Burmese military, particularly air forces, the terroristic behavior, and to see whether it would be feasible to put on the ASEAN's agenda to declare or designate Myanmar Air Force a terrorist organization, if not the entire armed forces. And so we also don't want to see the repeat of Iraq scenario where the entire armed forces were dismantled. I don't think that either US or China or other the big powers would go for that kind of wholesale dissolution of the entire national armed forces. But at least like the idea of designating Myanmar Air Force terrorists would take care of the supply of like aviation fuel, the businesses that are carrying on, or like UN agencies signing humanitarian aid delivery contracts or MOUs with Mail Line. And so that's one thing we should consider. We only have another 10 minutes. So can I invite each of you back for a few minutes of final thoughts, while we register our gratitude to Dato and his continued support and leadership, and we will definitely follow up on his suggestion of creating a report out of this discussion. Bidot Dato Mu, any final thoughts? And then Celine, and then Nana Plo and Guamsan, and then Dato. Just a few minutes each, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sari. I would like to add just a few things. The first thing is ASEANs really have to try to stop immediately as close as it can. Because, the terrorizing to its own people can create a huge burden and influx of refugees and all these drugs and human trafficking because of the consequences by that. That is really threatened to the ASEAN charters, which is ASEAN, the one community and ASEAN economic community and ASEAN political security. So everything is threatened to the ASEAN Charter. So that is the first thing that I would like to point out. The second thing is about if we are delayed to stop immediately, Myanmar will continue parallel with a huge dream since 2020 is about nuclear. Now he is trying to expand his dream back to 2000 about the nuclear. Now he is just in the beginning of this year, just in January. So it was MOU with Russia and continue on the January with nuclear under the name of the Nuclear Energy Corporation. But as kinds of state terrorism, so these kind of things, how can we control beyond that? So that's why that's also again against to the nuclear weapon-free zone in Southeast Asia of the ASEAN Charter dream also can be, under threats. That is also another thing. So that's why we really seriously have to think about that one. That I would like to get that message. So what practical things what we can do is, as my panelist colleagues, Gansam say that about the aerial fuel import need to be strict and need to be blocked by ASEAN neighboring country and also ASEAN member countries, we better not allow them go through the POP. So that's why there is a kind of trans-shipping movement, and also all the POP, are really have to strict the regulation and rules under the radar, and none of these aerial fuel import must be, allowed to get in hand of Myanmar. So that is what the second thing that I would like to mention. The third thing is about, at the same time, ASEAN, please look in and also try to be your, respected capacity and to persuade at least India and China. But we can see China is a little bit quite stayed away from that. But now Myanmar got quite a lot of the spare parts of the air, the jet fighter spare parts. So not only we have to stop the aviation fuel, but also we have to stop the spare parts, because Myanmar cannot produce spare parts. So that is also a huge thing that what we can do as much as we can from the ASEAN perspective, and persuading, especially to the India and Russia as much as you can, because Indonesia is also at the stage of the G20 leaders. So that is also another opportunity for them can be persuaded to Russia. That is what we are hoping for. So I will stop with my suggestion there. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Budo. Brother Saline? Just a few words. Yeah?
Thank you. I just would like to mention about the IDP, because it's not directly related. However, ASEAN should also focus on to India, because India central government has no show like a mercy, even humanity about Chin IDPs in India, especially in Mizoram. So, and then went on 10 January, the military bomb was landed on India soil, but the India, just ignore it. India central government has no response on that event. So I think ASEAN should also put pressures on India, and then to take seriously on the international air zone, and also and I think that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Saline, from the Chin National Front, and Nanaplo from Korean National Progressive Party.
Sure. Karenni National Progressive Party.
Sorry, yeah, my apologies.
Anyway, so I think I would just reiterate a little bit on the ban on aviation fuel to Myanmar. That ASEAN can do, or can coordinate with other international bodies or governments to impose targeted aviation fuel sanction on Myanmar. We know that some companies incorporated in member states of ASEAN are facilitating the delivery of aviation fuel to the Myanmar military, and there are concerns that if we sanction aviation fuel, it might affect civilian transportation, air transportation, or etc. It might even affect humanitarian delivery, etc. There are some concerns like that, but I think at this point, allowing the Burmese military to use air force and attack the civilian population is more damaging than sanctioning aviation fuel that could have only very limited impact on civilian transportation. Because at this point we're not seeing any humanitarian assistance that will be flown into Myanmar with cargo ships on anything like that. if there is such a humanitarian assistance coming into Myanmar, we have advocated for cross-border assistance. They will need planes, and we can also ship assistance with cargo ships. They will not need aviation fuel. So I would just like to reiterate that ASEAN should take better and more effective coordinated actions with international community in banning aviation fuel to reach the Burmese military, which will inevitably use the aviation fuel on its terrorist attacks against civilians in Burma. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Guan-san?
Thank you very much again. I did not use the word terrorist organization lightly. The premise of why I make that statement is based upon the military's calculus in using civilian life in its achieving its objective, political objective. That is the fundamental reason I make such a statement, because it has always used civilian lives and civilian population as a collateral or as a tool to advance its political objective. That is the principal reason, and it has never demonstrated to distinguish a innocent civilian population from an enemy combatant, and that is the principal reason why I say that. More importantly, I believe the 5-point consensus that ASEAN has adopted has, after 2 years and marching onto the 3rd year, clearly displayed as a veneer for inaction. And we think that we have to rewrite the new paradigm of an engagement. If we cannot help, the fuel is without a question a necessity, because it is obviously enabling the military to do it. As our colleague here, Mr. Dadomo, has stated earlier, the military is willing to use any arsenal in its capacity, in its toolkit, including or not limited to nuclear weapon if it's able to have access to it. It's willing to wage or kill any people or infringe upon any sovereignty, any sovereign states. Clearly violation of international standards when it comes to violating sovereignty of China or India in making airstrikes should be an affront to international rule and order, and also is willing to pull even infringe upon ASEAN's neighbors should become a necessity for him. And I think export of refugees and narcotics should also be taken seriously by ASEAN. After all, in the 21st century, having labeled genocide regime as its member state should stain the conscience and also the standing of ASEAN itself. And I think the community, those who really honor, international rule and order, for example, should not allow these military regime to be to serve as its banking centers. We know for sure that ASEAN member states still serve as a custodian for a lot of military's financial for its finances, and we know these gas and oil and gas sector is funding this atrocities against its own civilians. So it's incumbent upon international community to halt funding millions and billions of dollars that is only killing its own people. And it could start from this community. I think it is incumbent upon our neighbors to help stop it when the people are unable to do it by themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Guam-san. Dato Saifuddin, we'll give you the last word as our staunchest, most principled supporter of our struggle.
No, I mean, I don't really have anything to add except that, as always, I will try my level best to do whatever that it takes to talk to my colleagues and see if I was not very successful last time. Even though I tried my level best, but I think I will continue talking to people. There are a number of Malaysian members of parliament who are also very supportive. They I think I can rally their support too also in this area. But as I said, I will do my best to talk to my colleagues. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Myanmar military airstrikes as acts of international or domestic terrorism. And our distinguished guest today, Dato Saifuddin, former Prime Minister. Sorry, I'm wishing you're the Prime Minister, so I can call you my friend. So the former Foreign Minister of Malaysia and a member of a Parliament at the moment, and also Batoso Tadobu, the General Secretary of the Korean National Union, and the Guamsan Nasang, President of Kachin Alliance, and also the member of the coordinating body of Kachin people across the world, and Nene Plo, the spokesperson and representative of Cranny Progressive Party in the US at the moment, and last but not least, Celine Van Bewegmang, Chin National Front, based in the headquarters of the Chin National Front. And thank you all for listening, and thank you to all our distinguished panelists for a very valuable contributions, and we will have a follow-up action. And have a wonderful evening, and also for two of you from US, have a great day. Thank you again.
Thank you all very much.